Breaking news, everybody's quitting their job or wants to quit their job right now. This is by far one of the most popular categories both on YouTube in general and in the COD commentary community. Heck, I even quit my job a few months ago. I'm happy that people are taking the risk to go out and go chase their dreams, but I'm also a little bit concerned. And I get it, because on the surface, it seems like the glamorous thing to do right now. Jobs usually suck, and maybe they're draining or toxic, and you're not getting paid as well, and it can make sense. So if you're someone who's thinking about doing it, taking the leap and quitting, let's say you do decide to quit, okay, cool. But then what? Sometimes I watch the videos of people announcing they're quitting and I worry a little bit, especially for the young guy who's quitting, who doesn't fully know the decision they're making or what to do yet. Some people quit and they might not be in a position financially to have more than a month or two to chase their dreams before they go broke or go into debt. I've seen a few people even quit for YouTube when they have less than 500 subs. And then there's others who quit, maybe they have a good plan. These are decisions that really need to be thought through carefully, and it's not something casual because you don't want this decision to become a disaster for your life. I'll make the case here in this video. Most people need a 9-to-5 job, especially early on in your career. Most people are not ready to jump straight into entrepreneurship. It's not everyone follows this rule. There are some exceptions, but for most people, that's the case. And after a few months on my own again, it is definitely not something to be taken lightly. Trust me when I say that. So in this video, I'm going to start with a story about my life and kind of why a 9-to-5 job was exactly what I needed to be able to leave it later. My life might have been a disaster if I kept trying businesses after university in my situation. So for those watching and thinking of quitting, I really want you to think deeply about it and honestly second guess quitting, especially if A, you don't have money or skills, and B, you don't really know what you want to do yet. So here's my story. Throughout university, I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. It was running through my day-to-day thoughts every day. I wanted to be my own boss. I never wanted to be the guy who worked a corporate 9-to-5 job because I just thought it was a boring life. I wanted to have freedom. I wanted to be a baller, basically. And with these thoughts, I was probably about 19. So in college, I did start a business. I sold shirts. I even got a children's book published. I did a couple of good things, a couple of cool accomplishments. And I definitely had some good moments. At one point I had almost 30,000 followers on Instagram, and with it got some traction, but long term it wasn't profitable. I had to keep pouring money into it to grow. And I was investing all my spare earnings from my internships just to keep going negative. So I quickly realized wow. So right now I have no skills. I have a limited network. I have no idea how money works, how business works, how coding works, and it failed into oblivion. And the income on top of that was extremely unpredictable. It was very similar. You're basically at the mercy of an algorithm and who's willing to buy your products on a given day. So because of this, my entrepreneurial fire kind of died off for a while after that experience, especially as I neared graduation and discovered I was good at computer science and then good money and a solid salary was very close to me. So I kind of put that on hold. Then I proceeded to work in a more normal way for the next 8 years or so. And during this time, my learning exploded, my network exploded, and my bank account and my investments, exploded as well. But eventually, as with any guy with the overachiever defect, the you're not doing enough in life bug, the entrepreneurial itch appeared again to me. It's just like that rash that won't go away. Then I took the leap again, which was for several reasons I've already discussed, but it's different now because now I have so much more knowledge of business, concrete skill sets. I have a network, I have a lot of investments and money to fall back on. That's all because of the 9-to-5. I'm 28 now, and I'm a completely different person, completely different animal than when I was 20, 21, 22. Now I have a much better crack at it. My skills are much more honed in. I'm competitive. I'm more dangerous. Pitting me up now against my 20-year-old self is just not a fair competition. I'm harder, better, faster, stronger, smarter in every way. So now I've left my 9-to-5 for about 3-4 months now, and overall it was a great decision, but man, it's not something to be taken lightly. First of all, early in the journey, you're not going to be making much money. I made a video on this, but I'm working much harder and getting paid much less. With what I was making before, I could half-ass my entire day and literally get paid about $500 per workday before taxes. Now it's like I'm just bleeding out of my eyes to even make $50 or $100 in one day. And it's anytime I do, it's usually the result of a lot of work I put in that week. I also have to pay for my own insurance. I'm living in a lower cost of living places and countries, and that's my reality. And it's an adventure, and in a weird way, I love it. But man, it's a lot more to deal with. I'm still trying to figure out if it's right for me. I probably have a 1 to 2 year window to try this life out and then evaluate if it's something I want to do forever. And if it works out, great. The upside's enormous. It would be everything I've ever dreamed of, but it's very hard to get there. And I'm seeing that right now. If you're about to take this leap, you got to ask yourself the following questions. Can you take months of little to no income? Can you handle surprises? Do you know how to organize your work and present skills in a way that you can get paid for? Can you motivate yourself to work with nobody standing over you? Can you sell? Do you have your insurance covered, especially if you're in the United States? Do you have debt? And if you do, how are you going to pay it off now? And plus, like, taking into account my current level of income, like, it's not predictable. You want to quit your job for YouTube? Even at my level, 27K subs, like, I'm not even close. And like, given my trajectory, I'm thinking maybe around 100K subs, I could even begin to think of having the conversation of living off YouTube full time. Like, is this something you're prepared to face? People love to trash 9-to-5 jobs. It's the popular thing to do, and I've trashed it in my videos, but most people just aren't ready. They're not ready for the alternative. They are just not. I mean, when I graduated college, 21, 22, there's no way I had the skills to start a business or be an entrepreneur. First off, I was broke. I had no safety cushion. Would have been a failure waiting to happen. Could have set me back years, and I'd be nowhere near in the position I am now. Many people graduate and they're like, yeah, I want to start a business, be my own boss. Okay, great. But the problem is you have no money, limited skills, limited connections. Some people do. Some people are the exception. But that was not me, and I'd wager most people watching this, that's not them. I've had a 9-to-5 job for most of my career, and now, because of that, I have concrete skills like coding that can apply to starting a business. I know how to work with people. I have connections to get a job if I need it. I can communicate effectively from talking with devs and product people for 8 hours a day, and I have a huge financial cushion to fall back on and financial stability, all just from my job because I made money and saved and invested it. Like, you don't just gain the skills magically. And sometimes a 9-to-5 can help you get them. On top of that, it gives you insurance, it gives you learning resources that are free, gives you connections and more. Getting a job can be a great stepping stone to learning, growing your network, making and saving some money, and setting yourself up for future success, whether you want a more prestigious job or even want to quit and pursue entrepreneurship. It sounds kind of weird, but like, you can use a 9-to-5 to escape a 9-to-5. Like, working a normal job gave me so much money and skills that I do not regret working it and doing that right after college for 1 second. And I know I'm not the only one. Think of someone in our community, BizPath. He has a very successful business now, but one thing that people don't think enough about was that he had a 9-to-5 job for a few years that gave him connections in the industry and knowledge of how to run a lead gen business. Like, his job is one of the key reasons he has a successful business today, and I'm sure he'd be the first to tell you that. Now, I don't want to sound like Debbie Downer, and I don't want to crush or discourage anyone from following their dreams. I mean, the goal isn't to stay in your job forever. It's to use it as a launch pad for bigger things, to get better, to improve. You can use your job to gain what you need and eventually chase your dreams like I did. It's not a bad move, not a bad thing to have one at all. So if you're thinking about this, I want you to have a checklist of things to go through in your head. Are you financially stable? At least 6, preferably more months of living expenses because, the job market's tough and you do not want to go into debt to leave your job. Also, little to no debt is very preferable in these situations. So if you have a lot of debt, the unpredictability of the income might not be for you. Do you have your insurance covered? This doesn't apply to a lot of countries, but in the United States, which is still about half my audience, you have to figure out how to get insurance because your employer likely provided it. Now you don't do it. Like, you have options like Cobra or ACA, but it's going to be more expensive. There's no way around it. You're also ready if you have some income coming in, just so you have some cash flow. For me, this was, YouTube and dividends. So you want to make sure you have some money so you don't go from your salary to literally nothing. You also need to have skills and a general idea of what you want to do and what you'll be working on, aka this thing called a plan. You need a plan. If you wander into this thing without good resources, that's a disaster waiting to happen. I don't want that to happen to you. For me, I checked all of these boxes. No debt, good cushion, insurance covered, 2 sources of income, ideas on what I'd be working on, plus skills and a network to fall back on. Really make sure you're in a good position. So the $1 million question, should you stay in your job? For most people, I would say yes, stay in your job, learn stuff, meet people, make a careful plan to escape if that's what you want, because it can do a lot for you. If leaving your job is something you want to do, but you're overwhelmed by the transition, book a call with me and I can walk you through the exact steps and preparation I did and what worked for me, how I kept my income, how I lowered expenses, and how it can work for your situation. Life's all about the right preparation. I'll leave that in the description. I just want my community to make good decisions. That's all for today. I hope you found it useful, and we'll talk to everyone later.